About his music, Jeffrey Stolet once wrote, "I am finding that initiating the act of composition with concepts of pitch ineffectual. Such ideas only seem to intercede between my initial musical impulse and the work I want to produce. I was discovering that, for me, quote-unquote incorrect and quote-unquote wrong formal structures, ones that have gone awry or have become fractured like a glass hurled against a wall, these all work best for my musical ends." Even as a young student, Jeffrey had to go his own way.
I remember playing these Mozart sonatas, and sometimes there were notes that shouldn't have been there, and sometimes there were notes that should have been there. Sometimes there were more sections than there needed to be. Sometimes there were too few. So I freely went in and recomposed all of these Mozart sonatas, Chopin preludes, Bach inventions, and it never occurred to me that it was all the time had to be sending my teachers into shock. I just think that I was a natural. That's what you do. If it isn't right, you just fix it. You know, if there's a scrap of paper on the ground, you pick it up and you throw it in the trash. That's all I did. And so, in retrospect, I'm sure they must have been a complete shock, because it was just wholesale changes up and down, and it wasn't wrong notes. It was just I just changed the notes. So I'm sure Mozart appreciated it.
Jeffrey uses the tools of the modern composer. The studio at the University of Oregon is full of new ways to make music. Assuming that we love the music, but that we are totally ignorant about any of this stuff here, and that our eyes will glaze over real easily. Yeah. What is all this?
This is a way for humans who are involved in music to extend their capabilities. It is very similar, like a piano allows new sounds, a violin allows new sounds. There are many, many possibilities. In our studio here, we have a variety of digital audio recorders to record the sounds that we compose and create. Of course, we have monitors. We have a digital mixer here that allows us to combine sounds from different sources. We have, also in the mixer, there are a lot of possibilities of processing the sound, manipulating the sound, changing the sound. And of course, humans are involved in every aspect of our machines are not doing it. This is just as pianos don't play. Although, in a moment, I'm going to look like a liar having said that. Yeah.
What is that?
Well, what it's projecting is an invisible infrared beam, and it's kind of in the shape of a large watermelon. And it has many layers to it. And as I put my hand through it, I pierce the many layers, either this way or this way. And by doing that, what I've done is I'm sending out messages back to my computer as to which layers I've pierced. What I've done is I've written a very, very simple program that allows me to take those numbers of pierced layers and turn them into notes. So as I'm up here, I'm in very early layers, but as I go down, it's higher, higher, I'm going further in. Now if I move back and forth, I'm able to control what notes I'm playing, somewhat. Okay. What we have here are two infrared lighting wands. What they're able to do, it's far more complicated than what we saw previously. What's neat about them is as I move through space, each wand is sending out 4 numbers, and it will know where I am in space. What knows where I am? Well, there are a set of eyes right over there. And as I move, and as you'll see up there, you can actually, it tells me by sort of a little light that moves around up there, tells me where each wand is. So I can get pitches higher or lower, louder, softer. And The way I have it set up right now, well, is a particularly compelling way for me, and that way is that it's connected to the Yamaha Disclavier. Now, the Yamaha Disclavier,
That's a piano.
yes, it is an acoustic grand piano. What's interesting about it is that it can come under computer control. So what you'll see right here, just as in a short demonstration, is that I will play the piano by moving wands through the air. And I'll start with one wand tied behind my back. A little bit of high, louder, 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 more gentle. How about a little bit of counterpoint? It's a different tactile experience of that you almost have to feel something that is not tangible. And that sounds very zen, but you feel where your muscles contract to and expand to and how they move back and forth. There are things that you would play on the piano with your hands this way that you wouldn't necessarily try to play the other way, and vice versa. Saxophone.
Jeffrey is going to be playing part of his opera Frankenstein for his class today.
It's kind of like an old-fashioned rock band. If there was a metal band in 1780, this would have been it. I think that what I attempt to do is to lay out and develop a community where students can flourish and grow and learn from each other, rather than for me to tell them X, Y, and Z. I think the most important thing for them is to have some great soil in which to grow. The piano and string quartet and string bass. You hear that growl of Kima underneath it, and sort of Ornette Coleman-like sax parts. Teaching certainly has a lot to do with seduction, of bringing the student along, allowing them to find their internal excitement about it.
As you can tell, Jeffrey's music has more to do with timbre and tone than it does with pitch and rhythm. It also has to do with tension and release. But given that anything goes, when we were taping Jeffrey Listening and the release point arrived, we weren't sure just what was part of the music and what wasn't. When Leon Theremin invented the first electronic instrument in the 1930s, unusual sounds produced by unusual instruments were laughed at, scorned. Today, composers like Jeffrey Stolet are at the forefront of a new synthesis of human and machine, and they are dragging our ears as well as our rears along with them. Well, suppose there's some kid 50 years from now who picks up one of your scores and says, "Oh, this needs to be fixed."
I'll come back and whap his tail.